afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Patricia Capella with Clarion Events Food and Beverage Group. I'm very, very excited to introduce our panel of experts who join us today to discuss delivering confidence, food safety, moving forward to a new normal. Betsy Craig, founder and CEO of MenuTrinfo, Doug Davis, Senior Director, Global Food Safety with Marriott International, and Christy Trinkler, Senior Director, Product Marketing and Strategic Partnerships with Trabon. A few housekeeping notes before the presentation begins. All audience members are on listen-only mode, which means you are muted. We will be monitoring audience engagement on the dashboard and do encourage you to participate by using the question pane. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of the session. This webinar, as well as others in our series, will be made available on our website in the coming week. Now, without further delay, let me turn the program over to Betsy. Betsy?
Thank you, Patricia. Betsy Craig here. Happy you could all join us today for Delivering Confidence. At this time, I get to turn it over to Christy. Christy is the Senior Director of Product Marketing and Strategic Partnerships with Trabon. She's been there nearly 20 years, holding leadership positions with that company. With a deep understanding of restaurant industry and marketplace, she focuses on product, service, strategy, integrations, and strategic partnerships for MenuNet, Trabon's menu managing and publishing platform. Trinkler is the company's resident expert on FDA menu labeling guidelines and lead the development on My Meal, My Way nutrition calculator and allergen filter product. She provided her professional insights to the industry in general as a contributing columnist for FSR magazine and serves as co-chair for Restaurant Technology Network's third-party delivery and open API work groups. And I have been very pleased as we have recently partnered with Trabon on your My Meal, My Way platform. And it's super happy to have the partnership with Trabon and MenuTrinfo. Let me turn it on over to you, Christy. Go for it.
Thank you, Betsy, for that introduction. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to share our insights and developing best practices that we see in the food industry today since COVID-19. For those not familiar with Trabon, I'll just give you a brief overview of us. We're a third-generation family-owned business in Kansas City, Missouri. Our heritage began in print manufacturing, and we've been managing and producing restaurant menus for close to 45 years. We've developed technology to help with that, to enable a seamless process from your menu creation to the publishing of online and still manufacturing menus and millions of them each year. So thank you for having me. I want to share, in the wake of COVID-19, we've been seeing three basic themes emerge. One is the need for technology to create those integrated plans and processes to help you deliver confidence to your guests. We think that's more important than ever. We see that communication begins well before a guest even sets foot in your restaurant or sees your food online. So the guest is looking to find information well before they pick up that order on curbside or they're returning to your dining room once they open. The need for communicating that accurate information anywhere they see it across the brand channels, like your website, social platforms, online ordering sites. It's becoming really key, especially in this time. Your on-site signage is another opportunity to welcome the guests back, direct them on how to place orders, inform them that, and demonstrate that in practice, and you're communicating the utmost care for your team and their guest safety. So that's it's gonna drive your return visits during this time of uncertainty. And we just think that marketing your signature items moving forward is going to look so different. You know, we always concentrated on photography and the description and really enticing them in marketing, but now it's going to be communicating how you're delivering the safety of that product or that signature item. So that's where we see kind of the three themes emerging. So let's dive into the technology theme that we're seeing today. Some of this has been in full swing before COVID, but it seems to accelerate it now during this time. And every indication that we're seeing from our brand partners is that it's going to continue once the dining rooms are back open as well. So menus have evolved dramatically in the last 30 to 60 days. to accommodate rapid changes, different service styles that you're offering to meet those guest needs. We've seen a lot of limited menus happening, as well as family meals, pantry items being offered. Rather than going to the grocery store, you can pick up fresh fruit and fresh meat from our restaurants, meal kits, alcohol and drink kits, even since those regulations have been kind of opened up. So we've seen, however you're managing your menu today, whether that be a technology solution or whether that be in your artwork files or Excel documents, we think that streamlining that process to accommodate for all of this frequent changes that are going to start happening rapidly is in having that as integrated as possible is key here. So the guest is going to want to see that accurate menu information across all of their brand touch points. Online ordering, delivery, nutrition information is still key. Every indication that we're seeing with all of our technology platforms is guests are still searching for that really important nutrition information, as well as allergens. Very, very key to keep communicating those things because the guest wants the transparency. So we expect menu innovation to keep going and the need to accommodate differences by location. If you're a multi-location brand, that's only going to accelerate as brands continue to adapt in a rapidly changing environment out there today. One of the other clear things that we're seeing is clear communication is needed. I know a lot of restaurants have had to pivot to other service models that they're not familiar with. So curbside pickup or takeout even. So think about fine dining, casual dining that have maybe dabbled in that in the past, but maybe didn't have a clearly defined process. They had to pivot within 24 hours to make that happen. So we're seeing signage as becoming even more and more important to communicate what you are doing to inspire the confidence that the health and safety of the team members and guests is the restaurant's priority. So next slide, please. Sorry about that. So the clear, concise communication is key. We've seen all things rather than new opening banners to new menu presentations across the board. If guests are dining in, we'll need to be communicating all the steps you're taking to ensure that safe visit. So imagine a guest going into your dining room again. Are they going to be greeted from your greeter with information about what you're doing to maintain the safety of not only the restaurant, your guests, and your team members, but the menu? Is it something that you have new cleaning procedures or new menu presentations that you're offering now that maybe they weren't familiar with in the past? So we've seen trends and we're having conversations with brands daily to talk about what they'll be doing with their menu moving forward. So this is a very interesting topic for here at Trabon and also across the restaurant industry, how that's going to be shifting and what kind of processes and procedures are going to be put in place. We've seen disposable menus being discussed, new menu designs that allow for you to sanitize them after each use, or demonstrate that you're sanitizing those with each use. Antimicrobial coatings, things of that sort, and new digital presentations are popping up daily. So all of these things continue to evolve. We haven't seen a one-size-fits-all for the brands that we are working with. Some of them are adopting combinations of the two. Maybe they're introducing some digital along with something that they can also present the guest and safely sanitize with each use. So we're seeing a lot of those trends happening in those conversations that have started. But they all come down to making sure that the guest is comfortable when they place their order, whether that be a pickup, a delivery order, which is key, or when they're returning to the dining rooms. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share a story now. So as I told you so far, Trabon, our heritage is in print production, and we've produced millions of menus every year. But just like restaurants having to quickly pivot to new models, I wanted to share the story that Trabon, we saw very early on, once the dining rooms are closed, that we needed to quickly pivot as well, along with the restaurants that we serve. And we opened up a segment of our print production facility to produce face shields for both food service and healthcare workers across the country. And it's just been amazing, and how it's been taken on a life of its own. The stories and the thanks that we're getting across the country has been really inspiring to our team. And we see this across all the restaurant brands that we service as well. All of the things that you guys are doing to make your guests feel safe and take care of our healthcare workers and our first responders and take care of those restaurant employees. Just the free meals and things that are happening are just so inspiring out there. So we know as the CDC and the FDA continue to evolve those guidelines that are out there, and as restaurants are beginning to reopen, all indications are that the guest will want, you'll need to inspire confidence in your guest. So I just wanted to share that story, quick story about Trabon and how we did a quick pivot. But what was really interesting from the photographs you see there, we have a franchisee for Chick-fil-A in Kansas City that recently adopted a face shield protocol to make his guests more safe, make his team members more safe. But the key thing that he communicated once he implemented this to all of his team members in his restaurant is that he loves the fact that the guests can see his team member smiles. So that's what it's all about, making the guest and the team members feel comfortable and safe. So thank you so much for having me today, and we'll get to questions later, but I wanted to turn it back over to Betsy.
Thank you, Christy. What a great story that is to end on, and what a great product you guys have come up with. Trabon's certainly an awesome, awesome company there in Kansas City, Missouri, and grateful to know them and partner with them. Next we have, and I tell this gentleman that he has forgotten more in food safety than I will ever learn. It's Doug Davis, Senior Director in Global Food Safety at Marriott International. Doug has been in the role of food safety for many, many, many years, but it's been at Marriott for just over 30, right, Doug? And been doing the deal at Marriott for a long time, with chef background as well as licenses and certifications from ServSafe to CPFS, which stands for Certified Professional Food Safety, Certified Culinary Educator, I believe that's your ACF, Certified Executive Chef, and Certified HACCP Manager. A lot of certifications there. He is my go-to anytime I have a food safety question that's outside my realm. He's great to have a friend in this business. And Doug, it is an honor to turn this piece over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you very much. And the honor is all mine, ladies. Patricia, Amy, Christy, and Betsy, thank you for having me today. I don't know if everyone knows about Marriott in our restaurants. We have over 10,000 plus restaurants. We've got about 24 Michelin stars, by the way, and that doesn't count our meetings and events, food and beverage venues. I want to start out really by thanking the caregivers. And I know each one of you may know somebody that's a caregiver, but I really wanted to shout out to the heroes that put their life on the line to treat patients. We think that's a great thing. And to that, we have donated quite a bit to medical facilities, including shower caps and things like that. We had thousands of masks that we had attained from the last pandemic in 2009. So we were donating those. We're donating rooms too to these caregivers in certain select cities. So please go on Marriott.com and see if those are available for your loved ones. Also, we're donating perishable food and other things out of the freezer. And we're partnering with other food donation outlets to also donate to not only caregivers, but firefighters and those kinds of folks. And then we've got millions of the food handler gloves, and we're also donating those. So when and if you can in the near future, give one of them a hug. So hopefully that'll be soon. This is actually one of our hotels, and we're lighting up our hotels around the world, which is pretty cool in certain ways. And this one is to honor these caregivers. Next slide. But to get serious for a minute, you know, there are thousands and thousands of my colleagues that are furloughed, and your colleagues as well. Thankfully, many of ours are keeping their benefits, which is great for the company to do. But now we want to say that you have the attention of the senior leaders. Many on the call know how hard it is to get the attention of senior leaders, to get in front of them. But now's the time to do all that. I tell you a story, a couple of years ago, I had a Norovirus presentation to senior leaders that didn't go over so well, wasn't received very well. And I would put to everyone that if I were to give that presentation again, I would think that everybody would be on, on their hands listening and really asking a lot of questions. And that didn't happen a few years ago. And I think some of you on the call can relate to that. But to that, now's the time to really figure out what you want to do, not only short term, but long term. Those things like the funding you need, knowing nobody has any money now. However, once we recover, we might have. So if you have a staged kind of process where you can fund some of this training and other things that you want to get done, you want to turn this into an opportunity to improve your culture. In addition to that, I was going through kitchen after kitchen and seeing dry hand sinks. And now I don't think there's a dry hand sink anywhere. And so we're changing behavior as we speak. And these kinds of things are not going to go away. I just don't see these are going away anytime soon. Also, researching new solutions that are highly visible. We want to do things that the customers see us doing. For instance, the no bare hand contact with ready to eat food, I think is going to be highly, highly scrutinized in the future. Not that COVID-19 is a foodborne illness, it's certainly not, but it's the optics that matter. And those things are going to be ingrained into the culture of our restaurants going forward, and they're probably not going to change. I would also invite people to involve scientists, epidemiologists, infectious disease specialists, and so forth, and really research things that really have an effect on the three modes of transmission: surface transmission or fomites, aerosolization transmission, and also the person to person, which is the droplet, which is the most significant transmission. Those things would be like UVC. We're seeing UVC robots in some of our hotels, one in Houston specifically, air filtration, anything from hydroxyl radicals to HEPA filters, nanotechnology, electrostatic sprayers. If you saw our announcement yesterday, we're announcing globally, we're going to start spraying the guest room down between guests. That's going to happen every time somebody checks into a hotel. We're also going to be doing other things like providing these hygiene kits to folks and potentially wipes and other things. So I don't want to really get into all of that detail, but all of these things we're doing, and they're mostly science-based. And then, as Christy said, digital everything, digital check-in, check-out, payment, ordering, just everything digital and no human contact. And I could talk a lot about what we're doing in rooms as far as human contact and things like that, but I won't get into that. And then there are all the technical terms that all your customers are going to come into the restaurant with limited knowledge. Things like RNA, R0, which is the rate of transmission, envelope, non-envelope viruses, fomites, mitigation, containment, serological testing is in the news now. That's a prick test, antigens, all these kinds of morbidity, mortality rates, virus mutations, PPE, and don't forget PPE, paycheck protection. And then there's hydroxychloroquine and all the others. So this is what you're dealing with. All this kind of this hysteria in the marketplace, and you have to really assure your customer and instill confidence when they come into your restaurant. And part of that is this visual change, your enhanced cleaning. And we've developed a video and posters that we're posting in the back of the house and so forth to remind food handlers of this. And we really want to kind of use this opportunity to change behavior. That's actual image of one of our associates in China. And since January 23rd, I've been on the phone with Asia, and they are so far ahead of us. They're down the line. We had 90 hotels closed in Asia. Now most of them are back open. But they're already doing all the things we're either considering or we're now doing here in the US. So that was a great insight, good learnings, best practice, which we incorporated it into all of our protocols as well. Next slide. So this is before and after, and I guess everybody gets this. There was a study, I don't know if you saw this last night, but a study came out. There was an early research letter released about the air conditioning in a Chinese restaurant in Guangzhou was responsible for the transmission of the virus. And so it's critical that the restaurant have sufficient airflow. And you consider things like this aerosolized viral particles that may be viable in the air. And it's said that the air that could be viable up to 3 hours. On plastic, about 3 days, and on stainless steel, about 3 days. And think about our food preparation areas. Copper is an antimicrobial, so that's just a few hours. Cardboard's 24 hours. But remember, these studies are done under constant humidity and temperature guidelines. So UV, heat, all those kinds of things, environmental factors, they have a big effect on the virus. And to add to that, I don't think there's been even one confirmed validated transmission from a surface to an infected patient, but that's probably coming. And CDC, WHO, and all these research folks have said that it is plausible. So the question remains, are we overreacting or in all of this or not? And so those kinds of things will be flushed out in the future. And when we get a vaccine, then what's going to happen? So I call it building a church for Easter Sunday kind of thing, where you make all these infrastructural changes, which later is very hard to reverse. And if you remember, after 9/11 and after 2008, we made all these staffing changes, and we became very much efficient. And without specific staffing, and those staffing levels never came back. So we have to be very careful about the things that we do, and keep in mind our most valuable asset, which is our employees. When we talk about buffets, there's lots of guidelines on buffets, and I'll give you a story. In Hong Kong, I heard on the phone yesterday somebody explaining where the restaurants that are open in Hong Kong are about 25 to 35% where they used to be in terms of occupancy. So there's no way to get a reservation, for one. But what happens is the temperature is taken of the patron when they walk in, and everyone has a mask. And then they get a disposable menu. They sit down, and believe it or not, they still love buffets. They still go to buffets, but they remove their mask, they eat, they put the mask back on, they get up, and they throw the plate away. And so that's what's happening. And you could probably equate that to that might be our future as well here in the US. And then there are other barriers, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, have you seen the airplane barriers between seats? I think we're going to see more of that, more of like the plexiglass barriers where you can't expel anything out of your mouth into somebody else's space. So, and then there are the disinfectants. So, everybody knows the EPA P list, it's called. So whatever you use in your restaurant should be on that list. But just keep in mind that nobody has done any chemical testing against COVID-19. Yes, there are some products with efficacy around the other coronaviruses, so we assume that those will also eliminate COVID-19. But really the name of the virus is really SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-1 was the severe acute respiratory syndrome that happened back a few years ago. And the disease is called COVID-19. I think that's it for that slide. Oh, let me touch on Cleaning Champion. I think it's a great idea for restaurants to have this cleaning champion or this to put a face on what you're doing inside the restaurant, so you could actually talk to guests, customers when they come in about what you're doing, and they perhaps would be in a different uniform, and they would be doing the cleaning as opposed to all of your servers and folks running around cleaning and trying to serve the customers at the same time. There's a lot of issues around personal protective equipment and changing it out between tasks and things like that that really have to be considered. So if you had a go-to person or persons in your restaurant, I think that's the best practice. And then this is actually, I think this is China. This is what some of the more creative ways to do the social distancing. And everyone's wearing a mask, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. Next slide. This is a couple of cues that you can put on your floor or do other things, and there's plenty of cool ones that may fit your restaurant tone of voice, what we call. And then there's the global kitchens, the Jose Andreas World Central Kitchens, which he founded in 2010, has come up with a fantastic kind of protocol around preparing all these meals for hundreds of thousands of people. And I would recommend that everyone go and look at what World Central Kitchen is doing, and their protocol is for everyone to see. This is just one thing. How do you take off gloves? And most people don't know how to do that. And it's a very simple thing, but I only learned a few years ago. So, and then this is a front desk picture. This could be your host stand or your point of sale or whatever with the barrier. And this is also something that has to be considered. But then what do you use and how durable is it? And when kids walk up there, are there any spaces or gaps for the shorter younger folks and things like that? So there are many different ways to look at this, but I would say speed to market is key. You need to make a decision. And even our company is a big company, and it's hard to turn a big ship on a dime. But I think that is something that you should consider really doing actions very quickly and swiftly and getting it out to the market to gain a competitive edge. That's it.
Thank you, Doug. That was great. And folks that are giving us questions, keep them coming. The amazing Amy and the awesome Patricia are handling those and will feed us those. Doug, that was just a great presentation. Thank you very, very much. I am Betsy Craig. I am the CEO and co-founder of MenuTrinfo, stands for Menu Nutrition Information. We are based in Fort Collins, Colorado. We started as a menu labeling company, pivoted that to allergy training called AllerTrain. Now we have a food handler course. We are in the process of working through food manager certification. And we also do Kitchens with Confidence, where we deliver confidence through auditing, certifying products and foods and kitchens as free from allergens as we go from loading dock to tabletop. It's an honor to be with you today. I will let you know that participation in this webinar is mind-blowing. Everybody here wants to know what to do right and put our best foot forward so we can deliver confidence and what that's going to look like for the future. So I'm glad you took the time to spend with us. I will also remind everybody this webinar will be available online to be seen again and again so that you can have your team members, your coworkers go through it. Also, so you can pick up pieces that might have blew by, or if you want to revisit some of the ideas in the future. So food safety covers all these different areas you see in front of you, from the consumer to what are hazards, to inspections, to our health, to what we're eating, viruses, and of course that's what brought us all here today, and then safety, and finally certification. On this particular slide, I just want to remind everybody that both the FDA and the CDC are updating daily their websites. They are providing webinars. I've attended, I think, 3 from FDA and 3 or 4 from CDC just in the last month alone. Huge, huge sources of information, great pieces that you can use from them, such as posters to use in your location, and be forward thinking about how to handle the changes coming about as a result of COVID-19. Next, please, Patricia. Next, I want to talk about transparency, and I want to talk about transparency from the standpoint of what's on the menu and what the consumer is starting to already expect with transparency. First off, we have seen the industry go to traceability and ingredient information from not just, I'm going to eat beef in Oregon, but I'm going to eat beef and I want to know where the cow came from, and I want to know about the farmers, and I want to know what the food was that the cow ate. That traceability is actually going to be heightened. It's going to go to a higher vibration. People are going to want to know more and more information about their food, especially as protein facilities, meat packing plants all over the country are having huge outbreaks of COVID and shutting down and having to clean and reopen. And we're seeing a lot of scary things, and the consumer's feeling that scariness because they're watching the news and they are definitely feeling anxious for sure. Next, under certification, the transparency has to do with what we've been doing for decades, which is putting our certificates up on the wall that say we've been food allergy trained or we've been food handler trained. Consumers are going to want to see that more and more. And I advance the idea that we're actually going to start to see that on websites, because the consumer is going to come to your website and see what you're doing to be as transparent as possible about the food they want to consume from you. The delivery is going to need to get more transparent, especially when it comes to who are your delivery people. What areas are you going to cover delivery in? So is it going to be a geographic area of a mile or 5 miles or 10 miles? Are you using third party? A lot of that conversation needs to happen for the consumer to feel safe. Again, we're trying to deliver the confidence. Inspections, do you partake in third party inspections? Sharing with the consumer what you're doing to keep your place as safe as possible, and what your protocol is as far as that goes. And third-party inspections always deliver an extra level of confidence. Technology, Doug spoke to it about touchless and what they're going to be doing for rooms. I already use my cell phone to get into my Marriott hotel room when I travel. This is just going to be taken further and further up again in the vibration for technology to be the solution when fear takes over the consumer. Procedures, explaining your procedures to the consumer so that they do choose to dine with you. A lot of this transparency may feel like just so much, like overkill, and it's not at all. The consumer wants as much information as they can possibly get. And then finally, advisory councils. Do you have an advisory council for food safety for your brand, your single restaurant or your multiple restaurants? Or I know we have folks on the call today that come from the management companies that are out there and providing for B&I and for colleges. What is your advisory council for food safety, especially moving forward? And then finally, I just want to touch on something that I got my arms wrapped around quite a bit in the last week or so, especially visiting restaurants where I could, and that is how menus are actually changing. So the idea of transparency of what food is actually on the menu is also changing. We're going to a lot more family sizes, which helps your ticket average, which helps how much you can deliver out the door, that keeps your sales up. But the consumer is looking for changes in your menu. We're not going to be sharing as many appetizers. You're going to need to streamline your menu. You're going to need to go from 150 menu items down to 50 menu items so that you can secure the products you're looking for and deliver the confidence in the food each and every time. And then finally, we are seeing some restaurants being more transparent with their packaging, and I'll talk a little bit about packaging in a couple slides, but I do want to just share, last night I saw this was a wonderful thing from a restaurateur in the Midwest who on all of their to-go packages, they were making smiley faces and humorous jokes about going to the dentist, just fun things to lighten the mood. You know, the whole country, food is love, and delivering it with a smile is a beautiful thing. Next, please, Patricia. So as I was talking just a few moments ago about all the details and sharing, the consumer is going to want to know who, what, where, and when. And that is how they are going to pick where they're going to eat. So first on the left side of the screen, you see a page that comes straight from Chipotle's website. And on their website, they break it down into 8 areas that they are looking at to share with the consumer what they're doing for food safety. And as we all know, food safety and Chipotle have a history that looks like it got settled. And what they have done, especially in the last year and a half, with the changes in this brand has been monumental. And Chipotle as a brand has actually not lost money. They have gained traction and doubled their delivery sales from what I'm to understand online. Delivering pieces of information like you see on their website, and I encourage you to look once our webinar's done, it's just providing all of those minute details that the consumer wants. What is your COVID virus plan? What are you doing to keep people safe from loading dock to tabletop, or in this case, to the curb, back out to the curb? Who will you deliver to? Can you do a smaller menu? I'm seeing restaurants do park cooking. One of my favorite pizza locations back in the mid-Atlantic is partially cooking the pizza, you take it home and finish off cooking. They've never done anything like that before, but that's what the consumer wants. Consumers feel safe if they can cook at home versus cooking out. But I can guarantee you we're getting tired of cooking at home. So those are just some of the different ideas. I also put this wonderful piece here from Sweet Greens, where they, like hundreds and hundreds of brands, locations, probably many of you online, are helping to feed your first responders and people that are out there, hospital workers, medical professionals, cops, CNAs, all different bus drivers, everything. Without it, our entire society would stop and shut down at this point. And so going out there and sharing with the world what you're doing to help those folks definitely lets people feel good about supporting you versus feeling like somebody's not got our back in that area. I can do the next, please, Patricia. So Doug had a great picture up of someone taking someone's temperature. This needs to be part of everybody's policy. Obtaining one of these touchless thermometers, it might be very, very hard to get one, but they are possible. I do know that some of the drugstore chains have ways where you can get them in the morning once they've restocked some of the shelves. But how are you going to make sure your folks come in healthy? And what are the steps you're going to take so the consumer knows? So Are you going to temperature check everybody when they come on shift? Are you going to check them 4 hours in? That's the main thing that I've heard and seen with some of the brands I've been working with as far as developing the plan. Also sharing what your sick time policy is. I'm seeing commercials for different brands that are saying our sick time policy is this, and if somebody gets sick with COVID, they're out for 14 days, and this is the policy we're doing. And people want to know the policy. We are, as consumers, are up in the business of brands more than ever before. Next, please. So sanitation. Sanitation is the name of the game. And there you see on the screen, you can see Chef Raul, who owns a restaurant in Estes Park, Colorado, fabulous Italian restaurant. I had gotten Christy to send me some samples, so I brought him up one of the shields that was made by Trabon, and he allowed me to take his picture. Wonderful, single operator, independent, best Italian restaurant in Estes, in my opinion. At any rate, the consumer's going to come in looking for this. We're going to look for the masks. We're going to look for the protection, PPE. We're going to look for gloves. Is your apron clean? Now more than ever before, changing of gloves, changing of aprons, uniforms, eyewear, all of that, it's going to be mandatory. It's going to have to happen. I will tell you that I did take these face shields around to 3 different restaurants over the last week or so. And as much as face masks are super appreciated for the consumer, they're really hard to cook behind a line with that mask on. And the face shield is definitely a preferred device if possible, and if that's your policy. And again, your brand, your restaurant, your policy. Best foot forward, stating your truth, and getting it out there to the public. My final touch on this particular topic here on the sanitation is keep in mind, half of the time now our dining room is actually your parking lot. Has your parking lot been swept? Is it painted? Is it clean? Is there trash around? How does your dumpster smell? All of those are questions you want to ask yourself, because the consumer might not actually step over the threshold of your restaurant anymore. Things are looking different today. And to stay in business, we need to do that curbside delivery. Next, please. So being transparent about delivery, making sure your delivery folks, if it's third party or if you're delivering for yourself, making sure they wear gloves, making sure that you know if they place the order, can they pick it up curbside? Can they pick it up in the front? Do you have a way for them to text to pick up? Is there prepayment? Can they Apple Pay? Can they pay through tapping? Can they pay through a third party? Explaining what third-party services you do have, whether it's a delivery service or a pay service. I talked a little bit about packaging. We're seeing packaging go from everybody being cautious about overusing packaging and, you know, we can't have too much and it's got to biodegrade, and we've been super, super careful, and COVID has almost made that go right out the window, except for the brands that are deeply committed to that. I think in the long run, that will be a win for those brands. Today, just packaging, double, triple packaging is what the consumer wants. I put here about ID meals because I am a massive advocate for food allergies and gluten-free and special dietary needs. So making sure you have nailed down how you're going to identify those meals so it does not fall in the wrong hands. And then finally, tamper-proof. Having stickers that go on the outside of the bags, the boxes, the shell containers, all of it that say tamper-proof. I believe Trabon's doing some of those stickers, but there are a lot of people making stickers like that. So making sure that everything is sealed and the consumer knows that it's sealed all the way to their table. They need to know from your oven to their table it's safe. Next, please. And just to wrap up, this is my final slide to share with you at this point, and that is that transparency does drill down all the way to allergens, menu labeling. It is true the FDA has sort of paused some more of its intensity on menu labeling, like you do not need a nutritional fact panel on your to-go food the way you normally would. So that's good for folks that don't have that service or have somebody to do it for them in-house. But ultimately that will come back once we start to get down to the new normal. But it was super cool to see that the FDA said, hey, let's just make sure we're IDing the allergens. We have all the ingredients on there Don't use the word spices. People with food allergies hate the word spices. We can't tell if it's going to make us sick or not. Identify properly if it is gluten-free. Identify it properly if it does contain any of those big 8 allergens you see over on the right. And then finally, promote if you're trained, especially on special dietary needs. I know that we as a company have offered up to anybody who has not used our training, whether it's food handler or food allergy training, we have offered up a free 90-day offer for folks. The next slide, if you would, Patricia. And I promise you, I'm not trying to sell anything. What I want to do is have available tools for you. If we can help, if any of us can help, then please reach out to us. If I have it and it's in my wheelhouse and it will help you, it's yours. This is a time for us to pull together and be stronger together. So if my 2 co-presenters could pop back on the screen, we will start to take some of the wonderful questions that you guys have been asking us. And Patricia, do you want to call out the first question? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And before we go to the questions, I don't want to take up too much time because we do have a lot coming through. I just want to flip to this page quick. Just let everyone know that we have a ton of webinars that we've been doing and hosting, and these are all, as Betsy mentioned earlier, they will be on our www.foodandbevshows.com website. So, and you will be getting a copy of this presentation today in your email. So definitely look out for that. But please make sure to check this page because we're constantly updating right now to share anything we can to help. So I'm going to go back to your contact page and let's get started because we have a lot of questions. First question here, what is going to happen to the traditional cardboard, cutter box film, and foil that cannot be sanitized effectively?
Well, I have an opinion. Doug, why don't I start this and you can head on this?
Yep.
So I don't see us using that as often as we currently are because we cannot sanitize it between users. What comes to mind is the foil that is done in sheets will be the preferred. You want to pipe in and share your thoughts on that, Doug?
I'm sorry, the question was about cardboard. I didn't actually hear all of that. Sorry.
That's okay. I will. It's a question on what is going to happen to the traditional cardboard cutter box film and foil because that cannot be sanitized effectively.
So the virus has a very the half-life on the virus is pretty quick on cardboard. And I just think that if it's aired out and it's allowed to sit, then the risk is very much mitigated.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Great, thank you both.
Yep.
Thank you.
Our next question, actually, Doug, I think this one's for you. What chemical are you using to spray rooms? What would be appropriate for dining rooms?
Yeah, so that's very, very important. One is you have to look on the label of the chemical, make sure it's okay for spraying. The other thing is you make sure that you have the correct contact time. So no matter what you spray, it has to stay on the surface for a certain amount of time. And that validates the EPA registration. So any disinfectant that's on the in list of the EPA, and it should be a disinfectant and not a sanitizer. So I wouldn't spray the quat sanitizer like you have in your third compartment sink. No, it's a disinfectant. And we use an Ecolab product.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Moving on to question 3. I understand the touchless payment procedures, but how about guests that insist on paying with cash, as not everyone has a bank card or credit card?
I think that's going to be a challenge for those guests moving forward and those customers moving forward because the restaurateur is not going to want some of that liability. Doug, maybe you can speak to how long the virus might stay on the paper.
We've talked about this a lot. I know China was sanitizing their money and so forth. We see that the risk is low, but the cashiers should wear gloves and handle money with gloves.
Oh, that's a great answer. My husband puts it in the window and lets the sun hit it. That doesn't help. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll say I've been just not taking change back. I just say, have a great day.
Yeah, I've been doing that as well in certain cases. Just donate it, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's a good idea.
So,
Donate it is a great idea.
Yeah, if they're out doing it, and putting themselves out there, then hey, go buy yourself a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
So our next question here, how do you see immune supporting benefit foods being highlighted on menus and different day parts?
We're getting that question on our nutrition side of the house with brands asking if they can highlight foods that are more immune supporting and the benefits of those type of foods over other foods, because the consumer is starting to get savvy even more so about what they're going to choose to eat.
Yeah, we've seen that same thing, Betsy, on the actual menu conversations that we're having with our brands. Is they're looking at this as a time for innovation. So all the things that they have maybe wanted to introduce in a menu, and they thought maybe this isn't the right time, maybe our guests wouldn't embrace this. They're really wanting to try new things. And I think those type of foods will definitely be something that they'll explore and see how their guests react and how well they do in the restaurant.
Yeah, keto, paleo. We do a whole lifestyle diet area in our world, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some designation for supporting immune systems coming down the pike as well. But right now it's in the healthy. Yeah, it'll be an icon.
Great, thanks, ladies.
We already have that.
Oh, sorry, Doug.
Yeah, we already have that in certain brands.
That's great.
Yeah, like Weston Wellness, JW. Yeah.
Oh, right. That's right, you do.
Our next question, is there any discussion about the use of UV and receiving areas, coolers, and food prep?
Lots. So
yeah, there's
UVC,
tons of discussion.
Yeah. So UVC is very hazardous, can blind you, and the UVC light actually has to hit the surface of something, and something can't be behind a shadow or a corner or something like that. So it does work, but you can't be in the room with it in terms of unless it's shielded some way. That and the handheld ones, I would not recommend them. You have to use eye protection and so forth. And there are other ways to kind of disinfect the room besides that. We're using plug-in units that put out advanced oxidation particles within the room. We know these are being used in cruise ships. They're in the White House, and they're in other places. Restaurants use them. Chipotle uses them, for instance, and they disinfect the room, not only in the air, but on the surfaces.
Yeah, don't you plug them in and leave them for 30 minutes or an hour, something along those lines, before you can come back in?
You can leave them forever. It's not ozone. You
Okay.
don't want to use ozone when people are present.
Awesome.
Thank you. Our next question here is this is for you, Doug. How is Marriott planning to supply masks to their associates and our guests?
Yeah, our procurement teams are working on them. They're making sure the supply chain is sufficient, and that's all I can tell you right now. But we will have them available. We're not talking about N95s. We're talking about more of a surgical mask.
Thank you. And then we have two questions around, I know you had touched upon this about buffets, but what do you see the new business model on buffet or large gathering like conventions?
Okay, so a few solutions with buffets. We'll have somebody serve you. We sanitize and disinfect the utensils every 30 minutes. We may package something up for you. It may be the old steam table days where you go and ask what they want, you package it, you put it in disposable serviceware, and you deliver it to the customer. There are all kinds of different things. And not only that, you have to make sure that those who are servicing the buffet, your runners, have the correct PPE, and they're also screened for illness signs. And keep in mind that it could be up to 25% of those that are asymptomatic are also spreading the virus. So it's just one intervention.
Great, thank you.
I will jump on,
go ahead.
Patty. I just want to make mention, yesterday it came out from the Texas Restaurant Association, a wonderful checklist that just hit on almost everything Doug said right there. Pre-shift health, food manager, food handler, disposable or clean, fresh utensils, hand sanitizer, clean and sanitize everything, and follow the local health department. So if you want to go to TRA and look that up, they've definitely got a nice laundry list for you folks there.
Great, thank you. The next is about the plexiglass. Are there workarounds for cashiers behind plexiglass and wearing masks when trying to talk to guests and actually be heard coherently?
Yeah, it's a big issue. I don't know how, we're all new at this, right? We're working it out as we go. We have had discussions about putting card readers and things in so that the guests can access them, making sure that happens and not the cashier.
Great, thank you. Our next question, with this epidemic changing the culture of being a chef, how is it going to affect approaching a table of six with allergies? What will change?
I don't think much will change compared to approaching a table without allergies, but the allergies always need to be taken seriously. They need to be communicated front of house, back of house in multiple ways, typed out on the POS, handwritten out, verbally communicated, tagging plates so we know, maybe with the fro pick so we know which is the allergen meal. I think that the consumer is, the whole allergy community right now is up in arms because they can't get food that they need to eat that's safe at home because the shelves are empty already to begin with. And so this is just going to be magnified once they walk into your restaurant. I will tell you this, the restaurant that handles food allergies, and I almost want to say with kid gloves, but I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form negative, but honoring them and helping them to the very best of your ability, you're going to have a loyal customer forever off of that.
Yeah, I will second that, Betsy, because the more that you can communicate that outside of your four walls, whether that be on your website, social channels, this is your opportunity, if you have that level of detail with your menu, to really shine, because that community, you're right, is underserved right now, and being able to have access to food. So if you can bring them, if you can win that guest, you will win them for life. If you can communicate out there where they're looking for it. They're not looking for it once they get to your restaurant, they're looking for it before they get there. So be communicating across all your brand channels, those type of things.
And I'll jump in and just add one more piece to this. And because I read all this stuff from the food allergy folks, because we're so deep in that, a lot of pizzerias, a lot of Italian restaurants have no peanuts. Most of them have almost no tree nuts. To go allergen free like that of an allergen is a huge win for a family with a peanut allergy kid or a tree nut allergy person. So keeping that in mind, communicating it. Great mention there, Christy, of social media. Haven't even touched that today, and that's a huge way to communicate for sure. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Patty. Go ahead, Patricia.
Hey, thank you. And this actually kind of goes off that a little further. And Christy, this may be for you. What might be a good way to express to customers that COVID-19 is not foodborne to keep clients feeling safe?
Well, I think, Doug has shared a lot about the virus, the disease, all of that today. There's a lot of science out there today, but to be able to make that science understandable to the general public and to be able to communicate that, I think one of the best ways I have seen is make sure you get past just sending your email blast. Because I've seen a lot of email blasts from restaurant brands that will give the list of things that they're doing in the restaurant to make their guests comfortable. But that a lot of them, that's all I'm seeing. So just make sure that once your company has what Betsy talked about earlier, that crisis plan, right? Once you have that put together and you're ready to communicate that out, make it spread it. Make sure, just like a virus, spread that message, right? Spread that message everywhere that you can, because the brands that are being heard from the guests, they are going to have that confidence to come back into your restaurant because you were the one talking about it. You're the one sharing it across all of your channels out there, because there's so many channels that we have today for communication. So just make sure that you're utilizing all of them is kind of where I fall in.
Great. Thank you so much, Christy. We actually are at 2 o'clock. We had a couple more questions, but I know that we can send those to you and we can answer those questions, through email to everybody, because I greatly appreciate your time today. This was absolutely amazing, and I learned so much. And Betsy, I think you had a couple of things you wanted to say before we left for the day.
Just a couple closing thoughts. First, I want to thank Doug and Christy for joining me on this adventure today. You guys are amazing. Thank you. And I want to thank the food shows and Amy and Patricia for all the help and making this even possible to get this out for folks. And I will pitch an idea. We have another webinar coming up. It'll be an afternoon event on May 5th. Called The Upside of Down, How to Survive, Revive, and Thrive. We have 4 consultants handling 4 different areas of food service, all across all the different sectors, who will be joining in the same venue to share with you their knowledge from the last 20, 30, I think together we have 150 years worth of knowledge. So join us that day, but thank you again for being here. Thanks for your time, and I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much. Again, look out for the email. This will be posted on foodandbevshows.com. Definitely excited to see you again, Betsy, on May 5th. And thanks so much, Doug and Christy, for your time today and sharing all of the wonderful information. It was much appreciated. So I hope everyone stays safe and healthy. Until next time. Thank you.
You as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.